Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We know you are all fans of Dragon's Den, and some people are scared of our next guest, but I'm not scared. Well, but I'm not going to pitch him any ideas right now.
When someone is called the Merchant of Truth, you should be very selective about the questions that you ask him. Kevin O'Leary joining us, author of Cold Hard Truth, and of course stars on Dragon's Den and Shark Tank in the States and all kinds of stuff. How are you, Kevin? Nice
Very good. Great to be here.
Nice to have
What
you here.
prompted you to write the book?
You know, I have a thesis that says any entrepreneur, any Canadian entrepreneur that's had success owes a roadmap to the next generation on how to do it, but not from the specifics of the successes you've had. It's the failures that are more interesting, because I have a personal belief that if you understand your weaknesses, you're far stronger than if you just focus on your strengths, because you know what not to do. So this book is full of mistakes I made in addition to successes I've had. So there's a bit of a roadmap saying, here's how you can get there. But don't do these things.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating combination, because it really is the story of you building your various businesses, but also, you know, some insight into what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And people love to fool themselves into thinking that they've got what it takes to be successful in an entrepreneurial profession.
Yeah, there's a cost. You know, I talk a lot about balance in this book, and there is none when you're an entrepreneur. This idea that you can have a balanced life and take your weekends off and go to your kids' hockey games, that doesn't happen. The truth is you have to spend 24/7 building a business, particularly from its infancy. And it's a tremendous sacrifice personally, but it's worth it, because if you're successful, you achieve what I think is the book's goal, freedom. It's not about money. I don't need any more money. I need more time. But the key in life is to be free to do whatever you want. And, I think that it's a very noble pursuit. I wish many more Canadians would try it. But certainly the cost of it is detailed quite a bit in this book.
And of course, you've got the reputation of being a bit of a hard ass when it comes to being honest, really, with people on Dragon's Den and Shark Tank. Why do you think it's important to speak the truth when it comes to young entrepreneurs who want to do what you have accomplished?
Money, yeah.
Well, I think the thing about money that's unique to anything else in life is there's no gray. You either make money or you lose money. So, you know, this idea that I'm hard on people, I just tell them the truth. That's why I call myself Mr. Wonderful. I mean, it's very hard to find somebody that tells you the truth about money, because if you lie to them about it and they've spent all their family's wealth on a very bad idea, are you really helping them? No, you're not. You're actually putting them deeper into the hole.
People love to attach emotions and personify money and sort of the pursuit of wealth as well. Like it becomes a very personal issue. And for you, obviously, you figured out a way to keep your personal feelings a little bit separate from your business.
Yeah, I don't get
decisions.
emotional about money. You know, it doesn't work that way. It has no soul. It doesn't cry for you. It doesn't even care who you are. It pursues the path of least resistance to multiply itself. That's how it works. That's why if you're an entrepreneur and you understand the nature of what money is, it can be a great ally and a tremendous aspect to your life, because being wealthy is being free. The pursuit of money means nothing. The pursuit of freedom is everything.
Yeah.
And what person doesn't want to be free later in life, to do whatever they wish?
And that is something that you definitely took from your mother, and you detail a lot of your family history and your upbringing and what you did learn from your family's businesses. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what your mom instilled to you about money and saving it and saving for your freedom.
You know, that's a great point, because I learned a lot from her almost unconsciously. She used to come back, she was a seamstress on a sewing line in Montreal, Canada. She made winter clothing for children. But even at that age, she'd take a third of her paycheck, they used to pay them every week, and put it into Bell bonds. And she'd come home and tell my brother and I didn't know what she was talking about at that time, she'd say, listen boys, never spend the principal, just the interest. And always, always make sure whatever you buy pays you a dividend or gives you an interest check. So it infected me back then, and now if I look at my portfolio, I don't own anything that doesn't have interest and yield. I view my portfolio like
it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, the reverberations and how they transfer.
I took that trend into O'Leary Funds, a company I started a few years ago, and I remember some of the banks saying, well, if you put your name on a mutual fund, you'd be lucky to raise $50 million. We raised $1.9 billion, and the whole philosophy of the company is my mother on the sewing line. We don't own anything that doesn't have yield. So every investor we have gets a check every month, just like she did.
Yeah.
It's such a simple
and
premise.
And that was so unusual for a woman at that time, you know, to handle her own finances, to be working.
In charge, yeah.
And instilling that in her kids. Not many people do that. So how is it carried through for you to your kids?
Yeah, you know, you're right about that. It's something that, you know, when you think about it, she was very, very focused on this for her family to understand it. And when she died recently, 3 years ago, and I was the executive of her estate, I realized, and this is when it really hit me, she had every dollar she'd ever made. Still, after 2 marriages, 2 husbands, she'd always kept her money separate. She had all the principal was still there.
Always had her own bank account?
Yeah. Always had her own bank account. And you know, the lesson here is that what I've learned is women are much smarter investors than men. What's remarkable is they're actually less emotional about the money. And they're very, very strict in their disciplines. In fact, if I look at my portfolio companies today that I own, I invest in, the majority are women-driven.
Yeah.
In other words, run by women. I make more money with women.
Maybe that's men have trouble separating their ego from the money, and women look at their family and say, you know, this is what this is for, and that idea of freedom maybe plays
It's
into
true. I
as
find
well.
that women are more protective of the capital. They don't let emotion get in the way, remarkably.
Yeah.
You know, we think of them as the more emotional sex, not when it comes to money. They're much smarter and more disciplined, and they actually do a better job in managing families' finances.
Oh, I still cry when I lose money.
Yeah.
Well, I think when you lose money, you should cry.
You should cry. Kevin, one of the things you take a ton of heat for on both shows is this idea of control that you ask from a lot of entrepreneurs that you see come to you at Dragon's Den. But there's some really interesting stories in the book about your own willingness through your business life to give up some control to gain an asset that you felt was valuable.
Yeah, the reason I do control in a situation these days is because I can. You know, I can't be sure when I'm investing with an entrepreneur that they'll be able to execute the business plan. I'll give them we'll agree on a time frame, let's say 2 years, and if they don't deliver, I'll fire them and replace them. But they know that with certainty, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
But in terms of my own, journey, and what I learned in writing the book, which was a very cathartic process for me, is I took inventory of every deal I've ever done.
Yeah.
The ones I made money on and the ones I lost money on. And in every single case, the ones that I had wild successes on were partnerships. And the ones where I had catastrophic losses, I lost millions, were ones I tried to do myself. So I know there's certain things I'm not good at.
Yeah.
And now when I do a deal, I was working on one yesterday that's going to be a larger transaction, I'm down to 25% equity. It's a startup. I have 3 other partners that all have different skill sets. I think this is going to be a phenomenal success. I don't know that yet. But I'm happy to march into the future with these 4 people as equal partners.
And give up that control. It's fascinating, and the whole book is
Great
just so
advice.
well written, and such a great sort of blueprint for a lot of people to follow as well if they're really
Thank you
serious
so
about
much.
trying
Thank
to
you.
gain
I've
freedom.
enjoyed
And of course,
it.
you can
Thanks,
watch Kevin and the Other Dragons on Dragon's Den. That airs Wednesdays, 8 o'clock on CBC. And the Lang and O'Leary Exchange is Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock on CBC News Network. And if you want to meet Kevin in person tonight and get a copy of his book, you can go to Chapters on Robson, 7 o'clock, and get it signed. Thanks so much.
Thank
you, Kevin. Appreciate it a lot. We're going to take a break.